All right, so we're back and we're talking about Scream 3. And this film marks a very obvious shift in tone. So, between Scream 2 and 3, there was a couple years. A major event happened, Columbine. Happened the year before the movie released. And with all this talk about violence in the media, there was an effort to tone down the horror and the violence in the film. That's why there's quite a few off-screen deaths. At one point, there was a demand that no blood or on-screen violence happen at all. It really went there. In addition, Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of the previous two films, didn't come back because he had prior commitments. He did write a 5-page outline when he first shot the first film that would have outlined what two sequels would have been like. And he wrote about 20 to 30 pages of a first draft, but he had to leave the production. The original story would have involved a return to Woodsboro, where a Stab fan club would have been the cause for the killings. But Ehren Kruger came in and threw out most of what Kevin had wrote. The setting of the movie changed to Hollywood, and the result is one of the most tonally unique films in the series. And I say that
sarcastically.
Well, loosely.
And honestly, one of my personal favorite supporting characters of the franchise. And
I already know who it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Parker?
Yeah, Parker Posey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is Scream 3. So welcome back to another special production of Strangers in the Alps, a slasher podcast. I'm Frank.
I'm Sam.
I'm Travis.
I'm Dan.
And we are
Strangers in the Alps.
a slasher podcast.
Alps.
Strangers.
Sam doesn't know what's going on here.
Sam is
this is an
confused.
audio podcast, but if you can see the face, Sam is more confused than when she watched the movie.
Yeah, that's right. Am I reading the logline now?
Yeah, read
Okay.
the logline, Sam.
Log it up, Sam.
While Sidney and her friends visit the Hollywood set of Stab 3, the third film based on the Woodsboro murders, another Ghostface killer rises to terrorize them.
Terrorizes?
Terrorize them.
But let me just tell you this. Here's what I have here. Similar to what Sam read, but I think the last installment of the Scream trilogy is set in Hollywood, where Stab 3 is being shot, with Gale Weathers and Dwight Riley on set as advisors to Jennifer Jolie. Unfortunately, a killer decides to off the cast in order of the screenplay, and only Sid Prescott, Sidney, I assume, now in hiding until the killer tracks her down, can solve the riddle.
Was there any
things are wrong in that? No, there were no commas
There were
and
no
no
commas
periods.
in that one.
That is one run-on sentence.
An
The
AI
screenwriter wrote that
Well,
too.
AI.
It wasn't entirely one, because it was like, I'm going to start with this. It was a plot point that they introduced for like a second, where they were like, where Parker Posey started freaking out. She's like, I'm next.
Yeah.
I'm next in the screenplay. And then they immediately dismiss it by, well, there were like 5 versions of the script,
Yeah.
so we don't know.
But Gale Weathers was not on as an
No.
advisor.
No, well,
She
yeah,
was
yeah.
working
And
with the
Dewey's
detectives.
name is not
Yes.
Dwight.
Well, his real name's Dwight.
It is?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
mentioned it in the first or the second that
but
it was
they don't
When
make
you
Dwight.
were
it up.
describing the movie, you would not call him
No,
Dwight.
you would not, no. Because they only
And
mentioned
let's
it once.
face it, David
Yeah.
Arquette, he looks like a Dewey.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with that limp.
Oh,
Which he
his
has, but
body
at
just-
least they toned it down in this one.
I feel like
He had
really
a limp, but wasn't
Yeah.
his arm also crooked in this movie? I felt like he had something else going on. He started to
it,
look like
was, it hit a
Quasimodo.
nerve.
Speaking
it hit a nerve.
speaking of toning down, I think Courtney Cost can tone down on those bangs a little bit.
Okay. That, now hang on.
No,
And I
you
know
can't
Sam's
defend
going
that.
to jump
You
in.
can't
cannot
defend it.
No,
defend
no,
that.
I'm not defending it. But again, we could go on about her hairdo for a while. That.
Did you finally not see her in Friends
When
anymore?
I was looking at Monica's new hairdo,
Yeah.
all I could think about was, what?
the one where
what-
Monica gets a new hairdo.
What am I?
There
What
was
am
one,
I?
though.
What am I looking at?
Phoebe cut her hair. That's why.
Who? And that had to be a wig, right? Who?
I don't know who
what?
approved it. I don't know why. Because I'm sure like the director has to sign off on the look. I don't know why he
I'm
was
sure
like.
she did too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Travis. Do you want to tell us the name of the movie? Because I want you to get this out of the way and not do it for the entire
yeah,
movie.
So I was gonna say, Dan,
the entire podcast.
He's gonna do it
good call.
anyway.
Come on, do
It's-
it. Get it done.
this movie's called Scream 3.
No, it's not.
It's called Scritherium.
He said it with such
Sus-
gusto.
Say it again.
Scritherium. Scritherium.
Why isn't it S3M?
It's
It's like
Scritherium.
Christmas morning for Travis.
Oh, yeah. Every
Scritherium.
Scritherium.
What's in that box, Travis?
Scritherium.
What are you having for breakfast, Travis?
Scritherium.
Oh.
Travis, it's a boy. Scritherium.
Okay, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you look at the poster for Scream 3, it actually spells SC, then they reverse
The E.
The 3.
the E,
The E.
The 3.
into a 3 AM.
So what does it say?
Scritherium. Or Scrithery AM.
Okay.
It's 3.
But however, I feel like with the third installment of this damn movie, the title card is finally taking shape.
Yeah.
It's no longer the generic 90s font.
Well,
It's
it's
now
a-
Scream.
New decade, new rules.
That's right. You're right. New haircut, new rules.
I will say, just
what-
off the top
we
of...
should talk about our pre-thoughts. We totally
Oh, yeah, we did
skipped over our pre-thoughts.
Well-
okay, so we can do that. We don't need to go out of order. Let's just go over our pre-thoughts.
Yeah.
Pre-thoughts. Travis. I mean, you were like 9 when you saw this movie the first time?
Yes.
Scritherium.
I didn't see it in theaters.
What
You mean
year did it come out?
2000.
2000.
2000.
I didn't see it. I think my parents had to have rented it. I don't think, even though I'd seen the first two, I don't think I really paid much attention to this one. I'm not gonna go over it now, but it was a scene that I don't know if I saw it. I just kind of remember, and I remember we had like a friend over there, like, "Oh, you're watching Scream 3?" And we were like, "Yeah." I mean, like I said, for the first three, I don't have pre-thoughts because
It's already existed.
they've already existed before. So my pre-thought is, oh, there's a third one. It's
Nice.
called Scritherium.
We should do a Scritherium word count. How many times he says it?
Well,
it's
now
at
I'm just
least
gonna
50 by now.
Well, my initial thought, I remember you, Dan, were like, "Oh, read the log line, Sam," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll read it." And then I read it, and I was like, "I'm not looking forward to this at all." And that was my initial thought.
This was the first Scream I saw. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
And you
Oh, you went
cared enough
backwards.
to
That's
watch
right.
any of the other
Yeah,
ones?
you went backwards.
Yeah, I went backwards and honestly really surprised by the quality of the first one. Just because it's so like, I know it sounds funny to say it out loud, but it is actually quite a bit tonally different from the other ones. Especially when you think back on it, you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is where you go."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for you too, you were like, hey, these movies are actually getting better
Aren't or
because you
are?
saw them backwards.
Oh, yeah.
So they're getting
Yeah,
better.
That's right. That's right.
Look, I'm just gonna throw it out there. This movie has a special place in my heart.
Oh, me
and
too.
I will rewatch it. I watched it again this morning.
Oh no,
Yes.
Through and through.
Yes.
I'm gonna have fun with this movie, but
too.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Dan.
I enjoy it.
That's it, the silence.
I
That's
enjoy it just as much as those cops eating the donuts in the police station.
I probably fell asleep in that
No,
part.
it was like a really weird, and
That's
that's
fine, Dan.
And to me, that
Dan,
show.
final-
Oh yeah, Dan gets pre-thoughts.
Thank
Not
you.
too soon.
Man, they just fucking.
Uh-oh. Okay, my pre-thoughts are, I read the log line after seeing Scream 2 because I couldn't imagine where we were going, and I read the log line and thought, okay.
Okay.
Not another one.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go.
For you first-time listeners, Dan does not normally watch horror movies. And what, Dan, you've now seen 3 Scream movies for the first time in like a 1-week span?
That's right.
It's a lot.
That's a lot to take in. We have,
Yeah.
you know.
It's physically taxing on Dan. He's like basically skin and bones by now.
I've stopped eating and sleeping.
So, I mean, I it's kind of hard to like think of where exactly
Where
to
do we
jump.
start?
I can
But-
I can start.
Sure.
Okay.
Gail's red and yellow suit. That's where I want to start.
Why would you want to start there?
Just
I think there's so much to talk about with Gail. I mean,
Let's just
Monica.
start with Gail,
I mean,
yeah.
Courtney Cox. The hairdo, the wardrobe, her character's journey. They could not have made her look any less appealing than they did in this movie.
they were really
She was
trying.
appealing. She was in a yellow suit.
With the red,
Which was appealing.
with the red
it was,
shirt.
It was just, it was like they went out of their way.
Yeah.
And did she not stop and look in the mirror? Courtney, did you not stop for a second and go, wait a minute, I'm not going on set looking like this? It was
The movie released in
crazy.
2000, but it was filmed in the 90s, so it's okay.
But at the same time, I don't think that haircut was ever in style.
No, it was not.
It was just like someone, like, it keeps scaring me. Someone just cut it without even looking at where they were cutting. Because it was just jagged.
Well, just like the writing in the movie, they
Yeah, I
tried
was gonna
something,
say.
and they.
If it doesn't work, you just keep going.
I mean,
we're just leave it in.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I had an issue not just with Gail, but Dewey was almost a completely different
Yeah.
character in this movie. To me, he was just I'm like not like personality. He was just kind of like a bumbling idiot. Like this whole they played
More than
too
usual.
much on it. Like there's even the scene where like towards the end he like slips down the stairs and they have like the piano playing as he slips and then he gets thrown with the knife and it's like a fake knife that hits him in the head.
He was
I don't know.
clumsier.
He's just a clumsy like bumbling idiot. He doesn't really do
I think you're-
anything in the whole movie.
I think it was like there was sort of a bumbling sweetness about him in the first movie where you
Yeah.
kind of went, oh, I like this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the third movie, he was just bumbling. But I had a little different take. I felt like he looked to me like he would rather had his molars yanked out of his mouth without Novocaine than have to be in this
Yeah,
movie.
that's what I mean. He
it
didn't
felt
wanna-
like he really didn't want to be there.
Well, even like I think, and that's a good point too, because it's about what I was going to get to. Like even his acting, I feel like it's not bad acting. It's just him not wanting to be there. Like the scene when we're getting into spoilers now, when Parker Posey gets murdered, and he goes, "Is that mirror shaking?"
Yes.
The mirrors are moving.
Yeah, the mirrors are moving. I'm like, I don't know. He just really. I feel like when
Oh,
he
you
got
phoned it in?
Yeah, we got phoned. When he got hit in the face with the knife and it bounced off and didn't kill him. I think he got really disappointed. Was just like, can I just die? I don't want to be in this movie
Can
anymore.
we throw that knife one more time?
Yeah, can we throw it one more time, please?
Well, I mean, the behind the scenes of the movie is that they were even more than Scream 2. They were rewriting the movie as they went up.
Oh,
you
it's
know,
still
so-
happening with this one?
Oh yeah, like to the point that they have so much footage of alternate takes on scenes because they didn't know which way they were gonna go, and if continuity had changed, they wanted to be safe on. Oh, if we do this, we can have this ready to go. Yeah, there's like alternate takes for pretty much everything in this.
So it's like a
Which is-
jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah,
Which is why I think Frank said too, like, deaths were filmed off screen in case they're like,
Right.
hey, we need to do it.
Right, right.
That's not gonna mess with the continuity because they don't have it.
Yeah. Going back, Cotton, I was very glad he died. Because I still felt like he was a waste of character. And the fact that he it started off with him and like he got a show now. He's got his 15 minutes of fame. I didn't like it.
what a douche.
What a
I-
douche.
It's the weakest opening of the movie
Yeah.
of the series so far. It's
Like,
the weakest
right,
opening.
I was
it was-
rolling my eyes since the
It
beginning.
was very by the books. It just
Yeah.
felt like something we would write like in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, which they did because originally the girlfriend was not alive; she was dead.
No, and actually, the original opening for the film, the original opening was Sidney getting attacked.
Oh.
And they kill the attacker, and you find out that it was just like a crazy fan.
Right. you
Yeah,
said
it was a
fan
crazy
club.
fan from the fan. Crazy fan from the fan. Like someone who was like obsessed with the books, like Gail's
Right.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know how her theater major in college got her to be a crisis management
Counselor.
counselor.
It's just one of those things that change halfway, you know? But I feel like they were trying to make that connection with her mom wanting to be in Hollywood. Like that
well,
crazy
Oh
jump.
yeah, like
What was her name? Rena? Rena
Rena
Reynolds?
Reynolds.
Rena.
I don't know. I
Lena.
just if we're
Lena.
getting into the mom, like I understand, like yeah, they've
A lot of people
brought
got
up-
into the mom.
Which I also have something
That
to
was
say
the
about
problem.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's. I understand, like throughout the whole franchise, like the first 3 films so far, the first 2, you had it about her mom. It's kind of what jumped jump started everything. But I just feel like in this one with the mom now suddenly like showing
Out of
up as a
nowhere?
ghost.
Yeah.
You know what the mom looked like when she came in? She looked like Gina Davis in Beetlejuice at the end
Yeah.
when they're doing like
With the sheet?
Yeah, and I almost too felt like, and then the way the lighting, like when she was in the front yard in the beginning, I almost thought I was watching like a Meatloaf music video or like an 80s ballad. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like how the mom suddenly came out of nowhere.
Did anybody think that, and Patrick Dempsey, by the way, is in this movie, he plays a cop. Did anybody think that they were kind of leading us towards Patrick Dempsey being Ghostface?
A little
For a
too,
split
a little too
second.
heavy.
a little so heavy that you didn't buy into it for a second.
But you know,
wow.
with the Billy misdirect, it could have still worked just because with Billy they went so heavy on it in the first movie, but then they gave you reasons not to believe it, and then ultimately it was like, no, those were really red flags.
You had to have Patrick at the end, you know. Patrick,
Oh, which
not
they-
Patrick Warburton, who was also
Which
in
was
the
a
movie.
reshoot.
They did not originally have Patrick Dempsey at the end.
Yeah, he just disappears from the movie. Yeah, they
Wait,
were
what?
cutting it, and they were like,
Yeah.
they were like, hey, wait a minute, like, what happened to this kid? He's not here anymore.
So what did they reshoot?
They come
So-
back,
The whole
let him
landing-
in, go,
well,
hey,
no,
we're watching a
well,
movie.
oh,
What movie you watching? Well, come on and
because
look.
Honestly, if
Well,
he wasn't
let's
even
save that for a little later because it's going to get into the whole thing with the killer.
Oh yeah, I'll get into that later. What originally happened?
I feel like
Wow.
even without him in the ending, I wouldn't question it.
Well-
I felt like him being at the end was confusing. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you're here?
And that's
Why
my
are you so buddy-buddy with them?
and that's my big problem. I think I'm just gonna go with the first three because that's the only ones.
That's all I ever want to see.
I don't.
Unfortunately, that's not gonna happen.
I didn't care who the killer was in this movie. Like I really
I agree
didn't.
with you because I just didn't.
Leading
Travis,
up to it, or
no,
I didn't care about it at all.
I agree with you. At the third act, I was like, I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it
I'm
was
not
really
even curious about who it
There
is.
was no sense of me trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the clues. Like you said, like, oh, there was like the only red herring was Patrick Dempsey. For me, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just not invested. And I feel like, you know, I mean, I know they had a complicated relationship with Cotton, but like, I feel like, you know, them all coming together because Cotton really died. They were all just like, yeah, you know, I was at the grocery store and I heard Cotton died, so now I'm here.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like no one cared and everyone's just kind of like, we're here now. Like,
Right, just
we
showed
got
up.
the gang back together.
It was
I
clean.
was just sorry to see Patrick Warburton get killed because he was actually my favorite character.
Who was he?
he was the Jennifer's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Putty,
Putty.
Putty and
I
Seinfeld.
love that guy so
Yeah.
Got it,
much.
got it,
He
got
was
it.
He's also in
such
the
a
Emperor's
funny
New
actor.
Groove. He was Kronk. He's in
Oh.
the Emperor's New
He
Groove.
also was on Family Guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Was he the guy in the
plays the guy in the
Joe.
wheelchair. Yeah,
Joe.
Joe. I love that guy.
No, and he looks so silly even in this one, like with his
Oh,
like
he looked
his
ridiculous.
Glasses, yeah.
It is just there. And I like how he tries to like check Patrick Dempsey. He goes, "Hey, I'm a professional bodyguard."
Yeah.
He's a Hollywood bodyguard.
I'm going to tell you how it's going to be, my friend.
Oh, my favorite
No, it's
cameo
not.
was Jay and Silent Bob.
I hated that.
I was wondering what your thought was going to be on that.
I
Well,
liked
and
it
you know who the-
because it was just so random. The whole
I
movie's
thought
random.
that was funny.
Yeah, and it's having and didn't they stop to say hi to somebody?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the director, the studio, the person leading the studio tour,
Yeah.
that was Wes Craven.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Oh,
director
okay.
of the film.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I wasn't really paying attention to this movie.
Well-
it was a background movie for me. I was
Okay,
on my phone.
I don't want
I-
to say I was texting during this movie, but I did text a few times
Whoa.
during this
Oh,
movie.
I was on Instagram. I was on Snapchat.
Sam called me on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And
Let me-
if you've
let me
heard,
tell you the
no,
story.
if you've heard if you haven't heard the story, we've talked about it. Sam and us. Well, Sam never calls people. You know,
No.
we're all in the jet. She never calls. She texts, and then she ended up calling me.
So I called him and I was like, "Do I have to finish this damn movie?" He's like, "How much do you have left?" I'm like, "I have 40 minutes left, but do I need to finish it?" He goes, "Please do." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll
What
try."
part were you at when you called him?
No, I already stopped watching. I called him the next day.
Oh,
Ooh, where
Like,
was
you
I?
must have been.
Don't remember.
Oh, I think no. Okay, if you're about an hour, in, I think it was probably right after the actress that plays Sidney within the Stab movies. Was it like right when she died? I think it was
no,
right.
that's
Well,
later.
No, 40 minutes. Well, they had to have been at
It's okay,
Roman's
guys.
party.
I finished it.
They
It's
were
okay.
somewhere
I
at
finished the
Roman's
movie.
party.
Well,
You finished your-
even if you didn't, I told you the killer was, so you could pretend like you
Yeah,
did.
that was a text
Also,
discussion.
yeah, we have a group chat, even though we live in the same house. And you, Dan, sent a meme of the guy, and he goes, "Oh, he's the killer." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't finish this movie yet, but okay, cool, thank you."
And then we
you
try to
didn't
save it
care.
with the other.
And we threw every other character up there.
Yeah, and you just didn't care.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
I actually am gonna just disagree. I didn't like the Jay and Silent Bob in the movie.
Oh yeah, why?
It kind of took me out. I mean, it just.
That took you
It
out.
took you out?
Well, I mean, not took me. It just.
You mean you were in?
Well, no, not even that. It just kind of, to me, just like we were talking about the whole tone difference. I felt like when they started showing the Hollywood within Hollywood stuff, like them, I felt like maybe I was on like the back lot at Universal, and it actually almost reminded me of like the ending of Blazing Saddles, where it suddenly turns into a studio, or like I was watching like the ending of Pee Wee Herman. I know that's really like.
You know,
There's a lot of other problems with the movie, but I don't know. But just seeing Jay and Silent Bob, I was just
You can't. There's no excuse for
if
that.
Scream 4 hadn't have come out when it did,
Scream 4.
I'll talk about this
We're
next
still
week.
on
we're
Scream
not.
3.
We're
I
not.
know.
No.
I've said when we talk about, I'm just gonna say I would not. I'll save it for my final
Please.
thoughts.
So let's just jump on the Blazing Saddles real quick, because in going with what you were saying,
It burns.
I agree with you. I think Blazing Saddles is a great comedy, but I think that ending is a major cop-out. It to me, it's like Mel Brooks just couldn't figure out how to end his story, so he said, "Oh, let's just make it that we're making a movie." Not that there weren't some funny things in there, like Dom DeLuise as the director of
Oh,
the
yeah.
French Surprise song and all that. That was funny. But anyway,
Let's get 'em,
we're getting
girls.
off.
You know what I
We're
didn't
getting
like?
off on the side.
The fact that Ghostface used that gimmick of mimicking
The
other-
voice changer.
Yeah, and he did it consistently all throughout, like back to back to back. And it's kind of like at that point for me, I was expecting it, and I no longer. Well, I never really had any.
And when they
interest.
find the voice changer, you're like,
What is it?
Well, of
Yeah.
course, everything is not
Yeah.
really them.
I
They
feel
did
like-
so much. It was like,
Yeah.
What
was really
what I think is
Overworked.
I felt like in the finale maybe they should have used it more as like a twist, because then it was just like, oh, Ghostface is just using it to get people in rooms,
Right. And
Which
that's
is
what
like
it is.
it gets old fast.
And then towards
we
the end,
already
that's what Sidney was like. Oh, how would I know if this is really Dewey? It's like, oh no, Dewey's here. You want to come see him? I don't
They
know.
didn't use it to dramatic effect.
No.
To basically, you
It
know,
was, it was this new
yeah,
technique.
and
yeah.
I just didn't care for it.
and
I also felt they already blew that wad in the first movie, where the voice changer was why we didn't know who it was the boyfriend.
Yeah.
I felt like, dude,
But I mean, they used
Why are we
they
still
used the
doing
voice
this?
changer.
Well, at this point, it's like an iconic gimmick for a Ghostface to
But it was-
mask his
right.
identity
That
before
I
the
like.
reveal. But
Right,
I
but
think
now for this one, it's just him mimicking the other
mimicking of the
victims.
voices. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was their way of like throwing in like something to really upgrade this
Right.
Ghostface.
Yeah.
It ultimately, I've been back and forth on whether I like it or not. I know a lot of the fan base doesn't like it just because it's, for one, not possible with technology at the time.
Right.
But I don't think it's so egregious that it's unbelievable. I just think it's overused and not used in ways that enhance
Yeah,
the
like,
plot.
like by him, if it's a twist at the end, I feel
Yeah.
like that
Yeah,
would have
'cause
been a lot
I
better
feel like it was like
to get Sidney back into the house. You know.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
check it out now. Look what we can do
Yeah.
now. And like that was it. It's like, oh, we're gonna be different because we can do this.
And he could be like, "Oh, Hollywood magic. This is
Yeah,
what I'm doing.
and
I'm a
it-
director." Like,
yeah, I got my final cut.
there you go.
I made my movie.
Yeah.
I have a huge pet peeve, and this isn't just for Scream 3. This is for any movie that does this.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand watching people who don't know how to smoke.
There's a lot of
he-
smoking in this
here's
movie.
the deal. If you need people to smoke, then hire frickin' actors who know how to smoke or do smoke. Because if they don't know how to smoke, then don't put a cigarette in their hand.
Who didn't know how to smoke?
And every person that was smoking in that movie does not know how to smoke. They were not inhaling. They were
Courtney
just
Cox.
sucking, blowing out their mouth. I mean, it just drives me nuts.
Are you talking about them
you can
doing their
always
lines,
tell a
or-
smoker from a non-smoker by how they handle a cigarette, inhale a cigarette, and it just pisses me off. Now, I'll tell you one thing I did think was cool. I thought it was cool when Sidney went into the soundstage and saw her neighborhood and walked into her house,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
was her house.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably the only part of the movie that I went, okay, that's a cool
Yeah.
idea. If you're gonna be in Hollywood, you're gonna use this whole Hollywood thing. That's cool, because that's creepy.
Yeah, like when
And
the
I thought
mom.
the whole scene kind of played
Right.
pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, when the mom came out at that part, yes, that was effective. But then when the mom came out again towards the end, I'm just like, why are you here?
Yeah, too much mom. I did like
Yeah.
the mom appearing in the window at her house and then
No.
Right,
screaming,
and the-
and then
It was. I was thinking it was
But then-
lame. Yeah.
Are
I'm
you
sorry.
talking
Really?
about the? Are you talking about the dream sequence when
Yeah,
Sidney's?
And then
Yeah.
it's the mom, and then it's Ghostface.
so
it's
you
like
don't
the
like
dream.
the dream sequence at all?
No.
I felt like it was very necessary, though, built in what this movie was trying to do to get her to move, I guess, out of the house and forward. Or am
Yeah,
I,
like motivation.
I don't.
Some motivation.
See,
That's
it's
a word that movie could have used
yeah,
more
I
of.
don't disagree with that. I just don't feel like it fits in with this film.
You
like,
know, you
Nothing
realize
fits in with this
Well,
damn
it's a
film.
jigsaw-
we're
it's a
arguing
jigsaw
about
film.
points and they're all bad.
Literally a jigsaw film.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes it really hard to decide, at least for me personally, whether I think it's a good film or not. Is that so much of it is all these different films put into one, like the scene that you're talking about with Sidney going onto the Woodsboro set. That's a holdover from when they wanted the film to be set in Woodsboro. So Wes Craven knew that he wanted that moment, but it's not in the script. They kind of basically came up with it after they had the sets built, which is really telling that, you know, the one of the things that Wes was like, hey, this needs to be here. We're gonna do something with this. Is one of the parts that's the most, you know, effective.
Right.
You know, it really, again, and I keep saying this, it speaks to Wes's ability as a director that I feel like a lot of the best parts about the movie end up being things that he probably decided.
yeah.
Including something that I guess this is as good a time as any, we'll get into about the killer or killers. And I think that's another thing that, again, we can discuss, going back to the whole Patrick Dempsey disappearing in the third act thing. So before we get into that, though, I do want to give a major shout out to, for sure, the cameos, which I think work pretty well, but also the character of Parker Posey, Jennifer Jolie, aka Judy Jurgenstern. I thought her banter with Gale as fake Gale and real Gale
She was a
the
better
highlight.
Gale. She was a better Gale than Gale.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like
Yeah.
the one scene that I kind of did like with Parker Posey, that was funny. Them two together was when the Sidney within stab, when she dies and they drag her away, and it cuts to them both upstairs on the balcony and they both scream because they
Yes.
see the body. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, and the way
yeah,
they're
yeah.
running around the mansion
Yeah,
holding hands.
yeah.
Yeah, and then right after that too, it's the scene where like, and then Dewey gets punched in the face.
Yeah. I don't remember
Oh,
that.
silly Dewey. But I do also like the scene where they go investigate, and they have that little back and forth, and she's like, well, I'm gonna go with you because they want to kill the real
Yeah,
Gale,
yeah.
and if I'm with you, they want to kill you and not me.
The movie could have used more wit.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today. You read and it says, well, this is a more comedic approach. Scream 3, they took a more comedic approach. But I really question this as a comedy because it's really not. I mean, I think in spite of itself, we're saying it's comedic or it's comedy. It's not well-written comedy. It's like, not to, we have a project. I'm not going to tell you what it's about or what it is, but it's a horror movie, and it's genuinely a comedy. I mean, with jokes and setups, and it's comedic in its approach. This was comedic because they
We're laughing at it.
kind of failed
Yeah,
at every other thing they were. Not to say that they weren't trying to make it lighter, but that's not good comedy writing. I don't think.
Yeah, well, a lot of that pivot into comedy came right before it went into production. So of course it's gonna be kind of slapped on. It doesn't. I think the best parts about the comedy are also the moments that specific actors bring to a moment and not the scene itself.
I agree.
Yeah.
Parker Posey.
Which is where I
Parker
think David Arquette failed because I think he was trying to be, I'll just be the more bumbling cop guy and that'll be funny, but it wasn't.
It almost just feels like you're watching, like, especially at the end when they're all running around in the mansion at the party. and just the way it's shot, like I said, it's not shot very well at all. I almost felt like you're watching like a parody version of this movie, like a made for Netflix.
I was thinking of Scary Movie
Scary Movie.
Yeah.
It felt more Scary Movie than Scary Movie.
Yeah, I was like, this just, I mean, compared to like the first two films, what the chases, I thought every chase, even starting from the beginning with continuity.
Like Benny Hill.
Yeah, it was just, because that's what it was. That's what it was. It was literally, the shot selection was just the camera just sitting there,
Yeah.
and them running by,
the whole- yeah.
cut the close up. It was just, I don't know, like there's, because we said Kevin Smith, and it came out a year later, was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they do the reverse, where it's Jay and Silent Bob on the set of a Scream film. And it cuts to the girl, and she takes the mask off of the Ghostface, and it's a chimp. And she goes, Wes, come on, really? And he goes, what? It's what the kids want. It's what everyone wants. I felt like after, because I rewatched that movie not long ago, I feel like now watching Scream 3, I'm like, oh my God, like that scene in Jay and Silent Bob is spot on of what we just saw in Scream 3. It just felt so uninspired by the numbers. I don't know. It's like it was made in like a factory or
So
something.
like the more you're talking about it,
oh, I
the
still
more
like
you're
it.
We better
realizing
get a-
it's not a good movie.
I like it.
We better get a low
But
rating after
it's
this.
not a good movie. I mean, I know you're going to tell us, Frank, you're going to tell us why it's a good movie, but I will tell you, watching 3 Scream movies inside, 10 days?
Yeah.
It makes it very easy
Yeah.
for me to look at this franchise in a very different way than
Same.
spread over years.
Same.
Yeah.
That's why
You
you
go
and I
ba-
agree a lot
yeah.
on this. Yeah.
You go back to the first movie where you have a really strong first 10 minutes. You have a really strong Act 3. Maybe the Act 2's not as strong, but because of the murder mystery aspect to it, you stay very engaged because you are wildly wanting to know who's doing this. That is really watered down in the second movie a lot because of what we've talked about. And then in the third movie, it's just not there. It abandoned. So it brings me to a point, and then we can talk about this. I would, and maybe someday we'll get to, maybe someday our podcast will be so wildly successful that Wes Craven will want to come on.
He can't.
He is
He
deceased.
passed away. This shows how disconnected Dan is with horror movies.
Damn. Okay.
No, I'm saying it's good.
Disconnected.
Like,
We can leave it in because I did not know that. And all the reading I've done of the Scream movies, I never read that he was no longer with us. So then I guess we can just conjecture. I would love to know what Wes Craven was thinking through the journey of these movies, because clearly he took a very different turn as this series continued.
There's quite a bit out there about how he felt specifically, and it's not just related to 2 and 3, but also Cursed, which he did, I think, right after 3.
2005 or 6 it came out, I think.
Yeah,
and I think, no, didn't he do Red Eye? And like
he did Red Eye in 2005.
When
but
did he pass away?
He passed away.
2016 or 17?
Did
Yeah.
he do any of the other Scream movies?
He did Scream 4.
Scream 4 was his last
And
one.
when did that come out?
2010.
Okay, so
No, 11 or 12.
11.
2011.
Yeah.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that. But with these two, especially the third one. So the first film was written by Kevin Williamson. The second one was kind of slapped together forcibly, and then the third one, they were like, yeah, just get this other person to rewrite it. I don't have time. And the writer, Ehren Kruger, basically watched the first two and read the scripts and then kind of approximated,
Well, I think
where he wanted.
I think
But
he,
the-
oh, sorry.
But the thing is, in the writing process, he kept on skewing the characters in directions where they weren't naturally going to go. And so Wes had to come in and pull him back and be like, no, that's not where we're going. Like with Sidney's character, he kept on kind of pushing her in this Sarah Connor direction. And Craven kept on going, well, no, that's not where she would be right now. So let's pull
Let's
that
come back.
back.
Let's
Well, yeah,
come
'cause
back.
I think it was actually the opposite. I think he was writing it, and then he kept having to go back to the Scream films.
Yeah.
And watching them, and I think that's what he kind of said too. And Kruger was like, hey, like, I had issues because I kind of wasn't around when, like, the first two were being written. and I wasn't there for the creative process, so I'm having a lot of trouble connecting it, because from my understanding, it was Kevin Williamson to, give himself, jobs in the future. When he sold the first film, he sold it with having a treatment for the second and third film. He's like, let me just sell it as a trilogy. And Wes Craven was the same thing. When Wes Craven came on board, he was attached to Scream 2, and Scream 3. But I think it was because of the success of, what was it, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is why Kevin Williamson didn't come back for Scream 3. I think, like I said, I think he had like a 5-page outline, and then maybe ended up doing like 30, I think Frankie said 30 pages.
Yeah, about.
Wait, did he do I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yes.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
No,
Got
Kevin, sorry, Kevin Williamson, it's what I wanted to get to in the first Scream. Kevin Williamson was a huge part of 90s horror.
Yeah.
And it's actually to the point where some people that call themselves horror purists, people have gone on, didn't like Scream when it first came out. What is this? This is garbage. And a lot of people, and a lot of those purists or people who didn't like it, blamed Kevin Williamson. They're like, I hate Kevin Williamson, because from Kevin Williamson, you had Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend. He kind of did all of those 90s high school set horror where it's kind of like meta self-aware. Right. People have come around now. I think it's just because, people growing up seeing like all these horror movies and now just seeing almost like a parody. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
But in terms of Williamson not being as involved, a lot of the creative work kind of falls on Craven to kind of keep things in check. And then for this third film, with the decreased emphasis on horror and violence, he was getting a lot of pushback from all sorts of places, including the whole thing about not having any on-screen violence. So he almost left horror after this experience. It was just so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't have all this insight on the behind-the-scenes process, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with the producers involved, the elephants in the room, so to speak.
Were they still the Weinsteins?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then which is a weird scene, because actually one of my favorite scenes in the film, which I don't know, it makes me feel kind of gross too, is I think it's the scene where Sidney and everyone, when they go to Lance Henriksen, who plays the director.
Yeah.
John Milton.
When they go there and they confront him like, hey, we know what you did. It was wrong. And then you kind of figure out who, like, the producers on this one was.
I had my note.
I didn't like
I had my note. I was really grossed out because when they were telling about Rena and how, like, she got around and all that stuff, I was like, who produced this movie?
Hey, Harvey.
Hey. I was grossed out by that, for sure.
Isn't it kind of weird to look back on it now, knowing that they produced it, but at the time this wasn't like a thing. Like, obviously the casting couch has always been a thing that is talked about.
Confirmed.
No, and especially not with the Weinsteins. I'm sure they didn't know exactly that this was about them.
Yeah.
But
they had to have to be
retrospect,
But that is interesting, because that movie came out in 2000, and so that scene with the producer when he's kind of telling all about it, then later in the house where they find the other bed, the other room that's kind of like that secret room where...
And it's got automatic locks.
Where that kind of stuff...
Yeah, the automatic locks.
Where all that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
I wonder what the 2000 audience thought about that scene. It was probably,
this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
Would never happen.
Or even just the idea when he's saying, oh, yeah, well, she got around. Oh, okay, she was a slut. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm wondering if that wasn't the... That was what was being reinforced in the audience's mind versus, oh crap, this is like in Barbarian, where you find out what Justin Long did, and you're like totally creeped out. This dude needs to die.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I do actually like about the film is that there's this undercurrent of, the sexual violence and the crimes of Hollywood.
Mm.
Like I always thought that commentary was interesting, but it's definitely more potent now that we know all about this, or all about the details of what actually is going on. I'm sure it could have gone further, but let's be honest, people that work with people in power aren't going to go in as heavy on these things, especially not back then when the talk was less so about the victim and more about, well, if you
She's a
say
slut,
these things, yeah.
Yeah, and even look at like Weinstein, like in that time, like 2000, like he was still at the height.
They were the top producers.
Yeah, they were top producers. So like
They were
They
top,
weren't
they were top
worried.
producers like for even a few years ago. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like you
Which-
can't really do anyway. But
Yeah,
anyway,
but it's also insane in retrospect thinking about how they kind of fumbled this franchise to the
Yeah.
point that after the third film, they was it the third film or the fourth film? After the fourth film, they kind of drove it into the ground again and just threw it as a TV series to MTV. They were like, "Here, do something
that's
with it."
right.
yeah.
But you talk about the Weinstein.
Yeah.
They fumbled the franchise, but Wes Craven can't walk away clean from this. He didn't have
No.
to do these movies.
He didn't,
I
but
mean, he made the movies. He is responsible for
Yeah.
what these movies are. I don't care what the producers said. He could have said, "No, you're not going to get a movie in '97. I need more time to make this movie, or get somebody else to make it."
Yeah. No,
And
that's true.
I mean, Steven Spielberg. Again, I saw an interview with him. They talked about Jaws 2, which is my
Oh,
favorite.
boy. I
thing
was
to
gonna
talk about.
I was
right?
gonna start this with. Are we
This
gonna
is
talk
my-
about Jaws
but
3
he
today?
but this is interesting because they asked him about Jaws 2, and he simply said that movie did not need to be made. That's why I didn't make it.
Yeah.
There was no reason to make it. Thank you, Steven. Wes, there was no reason to go on to another movie unless you had a clear vision, which I'm arguing he did not.
Okay.
These movies fumbled around.
Speaking of clear visions, what did we
This
think
wasn't
about?
a trilogy in its origin.
Speaking of clear visions and not a trilogy in its origin, because I was going to get to it. What did we all think of the killer reveal?
I did not care.
I didn't care either.
And my first thought was, this dude couldn't have done everything that happened in this movie.
No.
This is the weeniest guy in the
it's
movie.
Well, it's
Not-
funny you mentioned that because he was not the original killer.
Yeah, the original killer.
Was he really supposed to be dead inside that coffin?
No,
Originally?
Originally, but it was changed because of Columbine. Stu was supposed to be the killer in this one.
Oh, yeah?
You find out that Stu survived, and he's in prison, and he's kind of the whole ringleader of what's going on. But then the studio kind of didn't want to do that because they're like, well, it kind of returns to high school with Stu being there, so they didn't want to do it. And going back to the fan club, originally, Sidney, they find out that like each victim that dies is by a different Ghostface, and you find out that it was actually a joke and that none of the people were really dead, and it was a prank.
So there was supposed to be an accomplice. So this is
Of course. There's always two.
There was always supposed to be two. So the original accomplice was actually Angelina Tyler, the Sidney actress. You know
Damn.
that scene where she gets
I
killed?
thought she was going to be the killer.
Yeah. So the original, I guess, character arc for her would be that she ends up being an old classmate of Sidney's named Angie Crick that was obsessed with her. And she would have been Roman's girlfriend and the accomplice. So when they mentioned earlier, Dewey says that the production office got a call from some woman asking for some stuff for the movie.
Oh, that was her?
supposed to be Angelina, and her death is supposed to be fake. So the original way that the final act would have gone is that Sidney arrives at the house and the victims are all strung up, very dramatically. Angelina's one of them. She goes into the screening room, and then Angelina kind of wakes up and reveals, hey, I'm the killer too. But this was before Patrick Dempsey was written into it, so we lost that reveal, and we gained Patrick Dempsey. But up to his death, Craven had still insisted that in his mind, she is still the secret killer, and that's how I personally prefer to view the movie. I still think Angelina's like a secret accomplice that just gets backstabbed.
Maybe if you just keep watching it, she
Well,
will be in one of the
it
viewings.
does, because even just watching the film, and it's just more obvious every time, makes no sense that there's one killer. With everything that happens, I'm like, no, there had
But
to
weren't
be.
you grateful there was only one killer?
Uh,
It shortened the ending.
Well, speaking of short and ending, that actually originally, when they had to go back and do reshoots, was originally. Remember when she shoots Roman? She shoots him in the very beginning, and then you find out, oh, he had a bulletproof vest. He actually was originally dead. Originally in the original screenplay, when they originally filmed it, there was no final standoff. She just kills the killer right away.
Yeah, it's
and they
supposed
just
to be a very quick
it was
ending.
supposed to be very quick, and then they were like, "Oh no, we need a little bit of a
No, we don't.
emotional impact. You know, we gotta add some suspense to it."
They wanted you to believe that Sidney could die,
Yeah, and
which you don't believe.
Of
Still,
course not.
But
What did you think about the very ending? And what about that she leaves the door open?
Oh,
for
that's
more
on my
sequels?
notes.
That's a double meaning. She leaves the door open because now she feels brave, but also the door's open because the series can continue.
yeah.
It's like, I know you're confident, but like, why would you? The door opened unexpectedly. I know you're confident, but why would you be like, that's fine. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's only 3 of us.
I don't
Four,
know.
I don't
Don't
know.
set the alarm, leave the door, but you got Patrick Dempsey
Yeah,
in the other
oh,
room to
and-
watch a movie.
And one arm cast. It's like, yeah, girl, that's totally fine.
I don't know. I still lock my doors on it. But going with that, like even, I mean, to go in, I don't. I mean, we've established that a lot of this doesn't make sense. I don't like Roman's motivation at all. Even Sidney dismisses it right away.
The half brother.
Yeah, the half brother that comes out of nowhere, and then the whole like, I don't like when trilogies do this, when they kind of do the like I was the grandmaster the whole time, but it's like, no, you weren't. This was never planned.
Yeah.
Originally. I mean, we saw it like most recently in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. It just seems like the biggest cop out to me. It's like, no, don't undermine all the great,
Yeah.
Scream that came before it. And it's I don't know, it's like you clearly had no plan, because the original killer for Scream 3 was supposed to be Stu.
Yeah.
You find out that he was still alive. He survived the first film, and he was in prison, and he was kind of the kingpin of the whole thing. But because of Columbine, they didn't want to, because it would go back to Woodsboro,
Right.
go back to the high school, and they didn't want anything that linked with it. And I don't know, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but I just
I have to disagree with you, though. I really do have to disagree. I don't think
What are we disagreeing on?
I don't think that. Obviously, it wasn't planned,
Yeah.
but I don't think the way that they wrote it and set it up diminishes Scream 1, because they never actually say that Roman masterminded the whole thing. The only thing Roman masterminded, supposedly,
Was he put the things in place.
Maureen's death. Everything that happens and this is why I wanted to mention this. I wanted to bring it up when we talked about Scream 1, but this is why I think that Casey Becker's death is the real linchpin and the real start off point of the murders, because Maureen's death could have happened and nothing else would have happened. Billy could have gotten revenge on Maureen and been done with it, but the fact that they waited a year and then were like, you know what, let's keep this going, that's what starts off Scream, not Maureen's death. Roman even says, like, I supplied the motivation and Billy did the rest. And then in a weird feedback loop kind of way, Billy inspired Roman to do the events of Scream 3. See, so I will give the movie credit for not trampling on Scream 1 in that sense.
I didn't mean like the whole movie. I think it's because and then you find out in the end of Scream, and then Scream 2 is like, it was, the whole like, oh, was it Cotton? Then him going, it just, I don't know, to me, I see what you mean. It just makes it a little too convoluted.
I don't know. It's a phony trilogy. It's not Lord of
It's
the
on a
Rings.
phone.
There aren't 3 novels that they turned into a movie. They coming up with these trilogies just because you all of a sudden go, oh, I'm gonna tell 3 stories. Don't need it, man. Plus now there's gonna be 6.
Speaking of trilogies, how did you guys feel about when they brought Randy back on VHS to bring back the Film Tropes 101?
Well, I think it was too because they wanted to bring him back, because they were like, we actually shouldn't have killed him in the second movie.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I just didn't like it.
It was, well, I think that's the only way. They're like, we killed him off, we want to bring it back. What's
Yeah.
the only way we can do that?
It was gimmicky. Well, they did try to bring him back physically, but nothing that they came up with was believable enough.
Yeah, because
so
he
they're
died.
like, Let's do this.
He clearly
been a dream.
died.
Yeah.
He clearly died in the
One of
second
the
movie.
suggestions was that his family would have hidden him away for his safety.
No
Which is
way.
like, he looked pretty dead.
Yeah, he was dead. I just want to say
Like the franchise.
that I'm just very happy and grateful that Dewey and Gail got together and got married. I thought that was
Stop messing around.
That was very important. It felt to me, that's the completion of the trilogy. I mean, the real trilogy is the journey of Gale and Dewey.
Yeah.
Just wait till Scream 5.
The forced relationship that nobody bought for a second.
I thought it was pretty believable in 1 and kind of 2, but I think by this point it was a little like
It got worse and worse with each film.
they dragged it out
I
for
thought
sure.
it was cute in 1. I
Yeah.
didn't need it to get any better than it did in 1.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
didn't need that to continue. If that had been done and we'd had never seen Dewey again or never seen, well, Gale, I guess, but I don't know, Dewey didn't need to.
Well, because I like the whole scene in Scream. I think it's just it capped like there was when like in Scream when they go on their walk, when they're at the party. I mean and even so you go from them walking and then I don't know like everything into Scream 3 like in the scene in the beginning I think when they're sitting at the cafe and they're like outside eating. I felt like I was watching a show on like ABC, like
reality show?
With the cinematography. I'm like, am I watching
no.
Gilmore Girls?
Much of Screen 3 looked like TV.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A
Very
lot of
much.
the
The
film,
lighting, the camera work, very TV.
It felt
Did
very
it do well
TV.
in the box office?
I think so.
I think it did decently, yeah.
it opened at
But
number
compared
one.
to the other ones, it just wasn't.
It was a drop off from the other
Gotcha.
two.
Critically, it did not do well.
Yeah.
It's considered by many to be a weak one in the franchise, the weakest
Sure.
of the franchise,
Yeah.
even to this point.
Right.
But there are actually a lot of Scream 1 purists that consider everything after Scream 1 to be dog shit.
Hey,
So-
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I definitely, I mean, again, having seen all 3 of them inside 10 days, you really appreciate the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really appreciate how well done that movie was. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. I
right.
mean, it's still a pinnacle of horror, especially 90s horror. I think it's still top
A friend of mine,
top grade.
Yeah, a friend of mine who we all actually know. I mentioned to him about the Scream. I said, "Have you ever seen the Scream movies?" "Yeah, I saw the first one for sure." I said, "Yeah, you didn't see the other ones?" "No, I heard they were crap."
Speaking of crap, Dan, what are your final thoughts on the movie?
Yes, let's do that. Final thoughts. Then I got to rate it. Final thoughts. Well, I guess you can tell I didn't think it was very good. I'm not going to say I didn't have fun watching it, though. I will say I still had fun watching it because it just wasn't very good.
For all the wrong reasons.
But yeah, for all the wrong reasons, I actually had fun. I mean, you could just look at Monica's wardrobe and haircut and Dewey's little porn stash, and I thought it was not good. I'm sort of cringing at the idea of watching Scream 4, quite frankly.
Scriptorum.
And continuing through this. But I will be there. Because I'm a champ.
Because you're contracted to.
Yes,
That's my reason.
contract runs till January of 24.
And what would you give it out of 5?
I would give it 1.9 Dewey mustaches out of 5.
Wow. You actually stole my score.
You can share it with me.
All right, go enlighten.
I also did not like this movie. I couldn't get with the concept, the whole like on a film set. From the get-go, I just kind of rolled my eyes at it. I wasn't too harsh on the movie. It just didn't grab my attention. I didn't have a list of grievances with it, but I didn't pay attention to it at all. Like Dan, watching in the span of 10 days, you kind of predict all the beats, and you just kind of, okay, well, that happened, and then you kind of call what's going to happen next, and you just kind of sitting there. So I just didn't know. No. I just knew what was going to happen, and I didn't really care for it. So I'm also going to giving it a 1.99 out of 5 fringe bangs.
Fun.
That's my rating. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So, I'll go next.
You got 1 minute.
I know we did a lot of trash talking here.
He always starts it that way, and then he'll give it a 5 out of 5.
No.
Wait, can we guess what he's going to give it?
Yeah, what do you think?
If
What do
you
you
give it
think?
anything over a 3, I'm going to throw you out of my
he's
house.
going to give it either a 3.8 or a 4.5.
I think it's going to be a 3.5.
Okay.
How about
I
you?
think so.
I think you're going to give it way too high of a score.
5 out of 5.
Okay, so, no, it's, we've all said it. There's a big big dip in quality with this movie. Everyone's staring at me now. I'm on the spot.
But it's quality in every aspect.
Yeah, every aspect.
It's like it flatlined.
I actually,
Maybe. We're still Scream 4 coming.
I remember the scene that I was saying earlier, when it's the only scene I remember, was the one scene where, like, Sidney gets shot, and it's like, ooh, bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
Even then, I was kind of like, I don't know. I actually didn't. I have maybe only seen this movie 3 times, maybe 2.5 times. I haven't.
That's 3 times too many.
Well, because one of them, I think, was the first time I ever watched it. Because, you know me, I collect movies. I bought it when these 3 first hit Blu-ray right before Scream 4 came out. I bought Scream 1, 2, and 3 on Blu-ray. No, but listen, this is not really a Scream movie. I'm gonna say it now. This is Scooby-Doo Scream.
You're making
That's true.
excuses for it. That's what
That's
you're
what
doing.
it sounds like. It feels very Monster of the Week to me. I didn't care who the killer was when they unmasked it at the end. I'm like, I guess that's
However,
who
I'm gonna give
the
it a
killer
5
was
out
this
of
week.
5.
But with that said, I'm gonna do a little bit of readjusting. So last week, I gave Scream 2 like a 3.
No, I think you gave it like a 4.
No, I
Yeah.
gave it a 3. I'm going to go maybe like a 3.5 because I'm going to give this one. All of you are wrong. And I am mad that you would think.
That's how it is with your track record.
But you know
what is it? What
it's
is
a
it?
2.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
Interesting.
0.1.
Fist pump. Fist pump me.
So
We're doing a fist pump first.
I
You
give
can't
it
see.
2 out of 5. Sam's calling me with 40 minutes left. Because Sam,
What?
I think I paused it at the same part. I paused it. I'll admit, I watched this last night, and
The fact that you watched it 3 times.
no, because that was because I had to watch it for this.
But
No,
you were
I get it.
like 12 the first time you
I
saw
was
it, right?
No, I was in maybe like 20.
I'm trying to help you here, Travis. I'm really trying
But
to
Take
help
the
you.
bait,
so
please.
I remember pausing it, and it was like you. I was like, I got 40 minutes left. And I'm just gonna end it with, because we didn't talk about it, I just gotta mention it. This film has some of the worst ADR I've ever heard in my life. The whole scene when Dewey and
Oh,
and Gail are
yeah.
tied up, and they're like, and you just hear them talking in the background.
Wait, which part?
The part where they're tied up and
Oh,
she's fighting with Roman and Gail and Dewey, and they're like,
I
"Oh,
thought-
you can do it!" Like,
I thought you were gonna mention the part where they were trying to get into the vault or the
I
secret
think
room.
it might have been the same part in that.
They're
That
like,
was
"We can
some.
go around."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
There's
was
this
some
door.
of the absolute worst ADR
Yeah.
I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Which is why.
Wow.
Next week we'll open a Scriforum on the next film.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say that sounds like scrotum?
I said what I
Hey,
said.
we're gonna have to cut that off. Out. We're gonna cut that out.
I
Okay,
am
Frank.
the only woman in this
Wrap it.
room.
Okay,
Wrap it
so
up, my
Wrap
friend.
it after you cut it.
look, I want to preface this by saying, once again, this movie has my favorite supporting character of the franchise, Jennifer Jolie. Parker Posey's amazing. I love all the little bits with her and Gail. You know, when she goes into her little investigative reporter bit, and Gail is like, "Easy, Geraldo," and then you see her in the background shaking it off and going, she's so in character.
Yeah.
I think. Also, same scene. Hollywood is full of criminals whose careers are flourishing. This movie knew what it was doing back
Yeah.
before we knew what it was doing. So those things kind of elevate it for me in retrospect, but I've always had a special place for this movie in my heart. It's not a great movie, but I find it fun. I have fun every time I watch it. Like I said, I watched it this morning just because I thought it'd be cool. I thought it'd be fun.
Was it one of those like you actually sat down and watched it, or was it like a background kind of
It
thing?
was both.
You watched it twice.
Because I watched it for sure a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
For
Right, for
the
this,
purposes
yeah.
of this, and then I just found myself wanting to watch it again. I've seen it several times. I've seen it more than Battle Royale.
Oh my God,
I
really?
probably watch
I mean,
it at least once a year.
It's not
around Halloween
as
time.
heavy as Battle Royale.
No, it's
so.
a lot of fun. So, and I also do appreciate that in that final moment, right before Roman's final jump scare,
Yeah.
when Sidney kills him the first time, that she holds his hand. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah.
small moments that really, again, point to a better movie. Like, you know, that's something that Sidney would do. And, you know, in those final moments, the fact that she's comforting her just barely found, that's the kind of stuff that you can add to a film and just kind of give it a little bit extra.
Right.
It's not a great film. It's a jigsaw puzzle of a film, but I will give it. And
Brace yourself,
Dan.
folks.
Dan, please remain seated. I'm gonna give it, and I'm gonna close my eyes when I say this because I don't want to see your reactions. 4 Judy Jurgensterns
See?
out of 5.
And you all made fun of me, and I'm gonna go with some
No, here's the
extended
thing,
edition,
though. No.
extended edition final thoughts. I agree. I like Parker Posey.
Oh, she was great.
Watch Best
Yeah.
in Show.
Oh yeah, she's
And
great.
there
at
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
And,
Watch any of the.
and, yeah, I will say too.
Of the Christopher Guest movies. She's in all of them.
If you want to watch some great, like Hollywood, tongue-in-cheek horror, not a good movie, but you should watch it because it knows exactly what it is. Watch Urban Legend Final Cut.
Here's the thing, though. With his rating, it's fine because he backed it up with, like, yes, this is bad, but also...
Didn't I just say that?
No, but you were like, oh, this is horrible. 5 out of 5.
No, I will admit.
Or this was
Finally.
amazing. 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
It
I was
changed
just
my
glad
life.
to hear you say it wasn't a great movie. I kept hearing you were going to hear "great" come out of your mouth.
I think he wanted it from Travis more than me.
Absolutely, because he just cut... Whatever. Anyway, wrapping it up.
Yeah, so
this has been great.
ultimately it's I feel confident in saying that this is probably going to be the weakest in the
Yeah.
series for all of us in terms of
Yeah.
quality.
That's good to hear.
But that doesn't mean that you guys are gonna love 4 and 5.
And there is 6. That's
And
still to
6.
come.
Screevy.
I'm not gonna say, but I mean,
And 5 Cream.
Oh well, you've seen 5, but you haven't
Yeah.
seen 4, right?
no.
Oh,
Did you
there's
say scurvy?
Yes,
Scurvy.
Screevy. Scream 6.
I call it scurvy.
Oh, scurvy.
there's
I
gonna
like
be
5.
some interesting discussions with 4. There's some plot elements that are brought up that I
Yeah.
think paint the franchise in an interesting, or point it in an interesting direction. And once again, there's things that may have been a Scream 4, 5, and 6 that don't end up happening that we can discuss in
Just
4.
Oy vey.
Please just tell me that Gale and Dewey are not in Scream 4.
Well, watch and you'll see.
You will find out.
Scream,
I think I'll just look on
and
my
here we
phone
go.
right now.
Scream 4 was the first one that it's actually the first and only Scream film I've seen in theaters.
Wait, you didn't see Scream 20?
5 Cream?
22? God damn it. Yes. You didn't see that one in theaters?
No.
You didn't?
I did not. I blind bought it. I bought it on...
Oh.
I got the steelbook,
That was a really fun
Steelbook.
experience in theaters.
I remember,
liked it in
well,
theaters.
that's the thing is I remember wanting to,
Yeah.
and then I don't know, I missed it.
It came out like right
oh
after
my
the
God,
pandemic.
they are in this movie.
And we're gonna end there.
This has been a special presentation of Strangers in the Alps, a slasher podcast. I'm Frank,
Sam.
Travis,
Damn.
and we are out.
Out.
of ideas.
Unfortunately, a killer decides to off the cast in order of the screenplay. Do I not know how to read? Let me start one more time.
Left or right?
The last